On Tuesday on lichess.org and Twitch. My name is International Master William Paschall. We are Sparkle Horse on lichess and Slaggy on Twitch. Welcome, friends. We're going to be playing anything between 5-3 and 8-3 today. Yesterday was our long classical stream, 15+2. But today we're playing any time control between 5-3 and 8-3. The maximum is a 5-second increment. The maximum base time is 8 minutes, but I don't play 8-5. 8-3 is the maximum overall time control, and the fastest I'm willing to play is 5-3. Anything faster than that is very difficult for me to basically commentate effectively. So, because of considerations with trying to explain what's going on, I like to keep the increment at least at 3 seconds. So here we are. We're going to bring up the video and get started. Alright guys, we got challenges from World Loser, who drew me yesterday in 15+2. A very, very well played game. Mastermind 14, 8+3, and the other is 5+3. And Acadian is challenging me to yesterday's time control, which was 15+2. Acadian, that's only for Monday at the moment. So if you could please re-challenge to, again, anything between 5-3 and 8-3, something like 5-3, 5-5, 6-5, 7-3, 7-5, 8-3, 8-3 being the maximum. So Acadian needs to re-challenge, and he would be third in the list if he re-challenges me. Liberian is 8+3, Muleskinner 8+3, and SXPG 7+3. So we'll get started with this game against World Loser. This is a fast game for my stream, 5 minutes with a 3-second increment. World Loser's been waiting for a while, so he might have stepped off the plane. Oh no, he's right here. All right. I think we had some Nimzos where I had a good position. He's primarily D4. I don't think I've seen him play E4 actually. That's a little more than primarily. Don't recall how it went if I played King's Indian against him. I must have played a King's Indian here or there. But it's not fresh in my mind. Alright. So, let's see what he does. I need to be able to play both the Nimzo and the King's Indian because, objectively, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Which means we can't play just one or the other. The 4 pawns attack is pretty tough. Let's play knight a6. I will also play c5. H3. Unbeknownst to me, that move. I think that that move is very slow for white. It looks tempting to play knight h5 here, probing that weakness on g3. I mean, I guess he could play like g4 and allow it, or even king f2. I mean, knight e5 looks like the normal thing to do here. Knight e5, e5. Excuse me. Alright, anyway, I don't know what h3 is about. Maybe it's some kind of trick, I don't know. I haven't played this position in ages. This variation in ages, I should say, let alone position. Looks like black's very dynamic here. Don't know if I have time for c6. Knight c5 should win the pawn back. But I also have knight to b4. We don't have a lot of time. World Loser moves instantly. Just got to decide between knight c5 and knight b4, c6. There's a number of moves. I think this must be right here. We're very, very active in this position. Extremely active pieces. Plus we have knight takes e4 and knight g3 ideas. I mean, when we take here, we'll be going to g3, maybe grabbing that white squared bishop. This is extremely greedy, what he's doing here. Now c6. It was possible to take on e4. I don't know why World Loser plays so fast. He plays a lot of bullet. I guess that's the problem. But this is very inconsistent. I thought he was going to play knight takes knight or knight e7 check. Now he goes back to c3, which is really strange. The blacks got an excellent game here. There's nothing wrong with the 4 pawns attack, but you have to know what you're doing. I mean, it's easy to overextend yourself. It's not a variation where you can just kind of figure it out as you go along. I mean, it really requires a lot of expertise. My very good friend, international master Joe Fong, he was still alive, but he doesn't play much anymore. He's basically like retired from chess. He's a massive 4 pawns attack expert, and so playing lots of training games against him in my career has enabled me to be adequately prepared to meet the 4 pawns attack. It's never easy. I'm going to grab this bishop pair. Open position. 2 Bs. 2 Bs or not 2 Bs. Maybe I should just play f6 straight up. Well, I could soften him up a little bit here. Soften him up for the kill. f6. His king is very open. It's like clearly better for black, but not winning. He's incredibly fast. He's played badly, but it may not be lost. He's telling me rook e8 was better. Alright, I wish I had time to type in moves like that. He's actually commentating that 18 rook e8 was better. 16 rook e8. Why? Like, you play king f2. It's not that much different. Yeah, but maybe. I wish I had time to commentate while I was playing the game, like you, World Loser. That's pretty amazing. I do commentate, right? I don't have time to type in my commentary. That's the problem. No typed commentary. How to do a position search on lichess. I don't think it has that functionality. Mule Skinner. Unfortunately, lichess is pretty cool, but the possibility for searching positions, I mean, it's not a database. I don't understand how World Loser is so much faster than me. He's got 3 minutes to my 1.5. I'm not even commentating that much. 1860 in bullet. What would my bullet rating be anyway? Alright, now he's just being sloppy. This maybe not enough to win if I take there. Actually, I'm afraid it's not enough of an advantage to win. That one weakness. I probably need to try to keep the pieces on the board here. Better off trying to keep the 2 bishops on the board. I guess this is just a draw. I mean, I'm better, but it's not enough. He's so fast, it's unbelievable. Well, I'm not going to just agree to a draw, dude. I mean, you have to be out of your mind. I mean, to offer me a draw here. Obviously, black is better. Well, anybody can be so confident. Such a position. So fast. Usually the inferior side needs more time to think than the stronger side. But he's much faster than me. Can't break through with my king. He's 2100 in classical. Amazingly fast. Probably winning somewhere, but it's not easy. Maybe I still have chances here. I kind of think it's not enough to win. I think this is probably a draw. Oh, here I have a trick. Does it work? H4. Not really sure. Down to 10 seconds. Should have accepted the draw. Why should I have accepted a draw? I'm playing for a win here. I had h4 last move, which might have been winning, but I couldn't calculate, you know, what happens after this fully. No, he has g6 there. Yeah, it wouldn't work. Alright. I mean, black cannot lose this position, Andy. This was actually really bad. Really bad move. Somebody's calling me now. Okay. Now black is better. He missed g6. He's playing for time, or what? What's the idea here? I guess this is just a draw. We're a little better, actually. Well, his technique is amazing. Well, he took. What's he doing? Wow, like no end game. I mean, he was drawing pretty easily there. I'm surprised he doesn't know this kind of end game. I mean, this looks like several chances for white, but he played too fast. Okay, mastermind. This is a+3. Blue Crow. Hey, sorry, bad internet. No, but I mean, you know, by out of your mind, I mean, it's like he doesn't understand how bad his disadvantage is in that position. He needs to understand that he's like fighting for his life there, and he thought his position is okay. It's probably a draw, but earlier in the two bishops versus bishop and knight endgame, it's probably winning for black. I just didn't have enough time to really execute perfect technique. That's a very, very difficult ending for white. 5 pawns and bishops against bishop and knight. Relatively equal king position. It's very good winning chances. White has to be extremely careful. And he offered a draw. It was kind of optimistic. With the increment, you know, it's not like he's doing me any favors. So I never played the French defense. I thought we'll try French defense. Blue Crow said, sorry, bad internet. What happened, Blue Crow? Why are you apologizing for your internet? You're not challenging today. Liberian, Mule Skinner. We lost the challenge from a different player. Acadian was challenging me 15+2 and then disappeared. Oh, well, Mastermind, if you're going to do that, then I'm going to play c5. But he missed an easy draw with g6. King takes g6, king e4. With a very strong king, he can never lose there. That's a dead draw. When I played bishop, I don't remember, bishop e7 to round up his g pawn, he could just play g6 and drive my king away, and then put his king on e4. And with a good king position, he has one pawn on the wrong color, but it's not a serious problem with such a strong king. That was an easy draw, and even at the end it was a draw. If he plays bishop, you know, he doesn't trade bishops, and he can sacrifice his bishop on h4. Now bishop g2. Unfortunately, I never played this with black. Mastermind hasn't played knight f3, so it's not a normal King's Indian attack. Some kind of big clamp setup for white, maybe with knight e2, which is often quite good. I'm not a big fan of d5 type of defenses. G6 looks a little bit odd here, but we're going to give it a try. Never draw, better lose. That's the Emery Tate philosophy. Once I told that to one of my opponents, I'd rather lose than have a draw with you. When I was frustrated, he had already offered like 2 draws, and he was this really annoying kid. And his father was like, couldn't believe I would say that, but anyway, I had a history with the guy. It wasn't just a complete stranger. So I did beat him though. It was digging. I did dig really, really deep, but I did beat him after numerous draw offers, and telling him I'd rather. Actually, I told him I'd rather die than have a draw. I didn't say I'd rather lose than have a draw. I said I'd rather die than have a draw with you. But I was exaggerating, of course. Bishop e3 will transpose back to normal closed Sicilian. Patasciuta, I mean, that's fine if it's a casual game, but when your like rating points are on the line in a tournament and stuff, rating points that are hard to come by or something like that, you're working for a goal, or you're playing in a tournament where losing is costly to your standing or something, you might have a different kind of philosophy about rather lose than draw. Maybe important for some other reasons not to lose. But in general, I applaud the fighting spirit. Queen d2, we're transposing to some kind of normal closed Sicilian type of thing here. Just that if I play knight e7, he has bishop h6 with a strong attack. So I guess we'll play h6, kind of like a hippo or something. h6, knight d4. This is not really standard for black. Maybe white's better here. There was this Finnish IM, Piolasalo, I think, who used to play the closed Sicilian against me all the time in blitz, and he would beat me up pretty good sometimes. So closed Sicilian is dangerous if black doesn't know what they're doing. This move order kind of messed with me a little bit. Typically I wouldn't play e6 and d6 so quickly. If I play knight e7, he has bishop h6. Now I have to play knight d4. This h6 is a move I'd rather not have had to play. I'm so courteous. I'm wondering how often I faced b3 in the French. It's been 9 games out of 36-15. You figured it out. So Muleskinner, how did you do that if there's not a search feature? Wait, can you search by opening? But there's no opening search on the lichess, right? At all. I mean, there's no like searching by ECO code. That's a feature they should have. I mean, lichess isn't meant to be like a database, but I think that's a pretty standard kind of thing that should be implemented. The search through your games is allowed by a lot of different functions, but I don't think that ECO or Encyclopedia of Openings, or basically ECO is Encyclopedia of Chess Openings. It's the initials of a code for ECO. Usually there's a code to describe which opening you played. Okay, now what, like e5 I'm supposed to play, I think. Maybe I take on e2 at some point. But I guess transposing to this kind of structure. Stats and things. Yeah, the chess insights are really cool. There's a lot of awesome features. Just that there's no direct way of like searching through your games by opening code on lichess. I mean, they've done a lot of stuff, but I don't think they've gotten around to that yet. So I was asking you, actually, Muleskinner, you faced b3 3 times. You said you had it in a tournament game. Well, you could certainly transpose to the Sicilian, right? I think that's the standard approach. I mean, to be honest, Muleskinner, I'm talking to Muleskinner or Plucro now? Muleskinner. after sort of like e4, c5, b3, e6 is one of black's standard replies. Actually, I prefer b6, but I think you could play e6 and transpose to Sicilian against b3. It's not a bad way to play. Here, should I trade knights? I suppose so. I'm black, trading pieces. Probably not a bad strategy. Now I have time to castle. It's about equal. Not my favorite structure, though. I don't really like playing e5 in the closed Sicilian, to be honest. And I don't really like playing it in the Sicilian in general. Honestly, I don't like blocking my bishop on g7. In the b3 Sicilian, b6 is a good move, but the usual setup is like b6 and e6. So I would think it would transpose to a standard like Sicilian. If Muleskinner plays like e4, e6, b3, c5, most people are going to play bishop b2, and after b6, you're going to be in a standard position. Bishop b2, bishop b6, knight f3, bishop b7, and then like, I don't know, knight c3 or whatnot. Here it's a question of if f5, is f5 a threat? Pawn takes pawn is definitely a threat, winning material. So I guess I have to take here. That also opens up my bishop on g7. His knight on d1 is not really great. Can get back in the game. f2 or e3. Yeah, this is the standard positional recapture. Taking with the pawn allows me to like block the position, and the bishop on e3 becomes kind of bad. So in 90% of cases, it's usually recommended to take back with the bishop in these kind of closed Sicilian type of structures. But I'm not 100% sure what to do here, you know. I don't want to go crazy with like g5. I guess I just need to develop my pieces. Bishop e6. It's hard to imagine life without bishop e6 here. But it looks like we don't have any advantage. Approximately equal. One thing I've learned from streaming is that I enjoy open positions more than closed positions. I'm always lamenting these closed Sicilians. It's ironic because I play the Nimzo and the King's Indian, which are both defenses that can kind of lead to closed games. But it's hard to get an open game against d4, admittedly. No matter what you play, the Grunfeld really, probably the Grunfeld is the best chance for an open game against d4. The Grunfeld, the Benko. I actually played the Benko, not the Benko, the Grunfeld when I was up until the point when I was about 1900. And I'm not sure why I stopped playing the Grunfeld. I never stopped entirely. I had a handful of games as a master in the Grunfeld, but I just never had good results. It's funny how like certain openings you play for a while, and after a while, if you never have a good result, you just kind of give up. But I think Mastermind's not doing anything here. He's not doing anything well, though. Not doing anything is an art form in chess. Not doing anything well. I talked about this guy, this Russian candidate master, David Tylovich, who was an old dude who played in Boston for a while. He was around 2300, 2350 US. He was amazing, though. He would not move he would move his king back and forth. Like, he would know the perfect situation to like move his king back and forth to maintain the equilibrium or something like that, you know. I never saw a player who was so professional in moving their king back and forth at just the right moment. There's a real art to that, you know. It's not easy. And the guy basically played for a draw every game against higher rated players, which is sort of understandable. Alright, we're going to play offensively here with d5. Going for it. I thought he should have played d4, Mastermind. I think you should go for d4, honestly. You're doing nothing, but sometimes doing nothing can be the wrong thing. I mean, maybe d4 here. If cd even bishop takes d4, I thought that could be complicated, like knight c6 maybe. It's equal. But I think you should do something, not nothing. Because if you do nothing, I might slowly get the better game in this position. Mrs. Arias. So now he's not doing nothing. But what about your h3 pawn? Man, that could get pretty weird. I take on d4 first. Maybe this was a mistake. I'm not sure. I take on d4 now. e4, that's called e4. For those of you that don't know, this is an e. E. Like myself. I don't know. But he's pinned along the d file. I'm basically trying to steal a pawn here. If knight takes e4, I don't have too much. That knight is very bad. Is a bad actor. Bad guy. A lot of bad. It's a bad dude that needs to be. This bad dude needs to be deported from the center by Donald Trump. Oh no. Mastermind. What? Why can't you take here on e4? Come on now. You're playing too passively. Knight takes e4. This move is a must. Okay, I guess I understand, but I don't know if I do. What's going on after like knight takes e4? He has massive compensation if I try to take this pawn on h3. He's afraid of bishop takes h3 maybe. But you've got to play aggressively, more aggressively, Mastermind. It's just too passive. I have knight f5 here. I have f5. I mean, simply f5 is good. But this move may not be so good. It's probably good enough, though. I don't know. I mean, f5 is just like strategically monstrous for black. You let me shut down your whole king side if you take this pawn on a7. That can't be as important as maintaining my protected pass pawn on e4. I mean, Mastermind, right at the last, until the last moment, you know, play too hesitantly. I mean, you need to play knight takes e4 here. Looking at the f6 check and the dark square weaknesses in my position, it seems quite complicated to me. I'm not at all certain that I'm better in that position. Now knight there. I'm just going to take. g5 is out. So I take this. Get the two bishops and a protected pass pawn with a strategically winning position. What time control is default today? Said Megash. Well, there is no specific time control. This is my standard stream, and basically I play any time control between, more or less any time control between 5-3 and 8-3. The rules are this, you know, that the minimum base time is 5 minutes, the maximum base time is 8 minutes, the maximum increment is 5 seconds, and the minimum increment is 3 seconds. And the maximum time control is 8-3. There's all these permutations you have to understand. It's kind of a complicated system, but 5-3, 5-5, 6-3. We just bite the bullet here and take on d4. No fear. Well, it's not like he has any devastating discoveries or something. But I am putting myself into a pin, which is always a dangerous procedure. Oh. There's bishop c4 check. Might as well just develop the rest of my pieces. The rest of my piece. All right, Mastermind. Good opening, but like we played really hesitantly. I mean, I think the d4 first would be a better idea, and then like when you do play d4, maybe, you know, just pulling the trigger on knight takes e4 here. Let me see this position. I mean, I'd be surprised if white is much worse here. Minus 0.3, minus 0.2. Knight takes e4 only move in this position, and it doesn't look like I can get away with taking this pawn on h3. This looks very dangerous. Bishop takes h3. Can that be possible? That actually loses. So you've got massive threats on f6. I can't even take this pawn. So the best I could do would be playing rook d8 or bishop takes d4, I guess. See, even that's... Yeah, man, knight takes e4 and you're active. And you've got... I might have to play knight g8 or something to defend my f6 square. Looks like after this, white's not even worse. Okay, so don't be too passive. Liberian, 8+3. You ate the potatoes. Liberian's fast too, but he's challenging 8-3. He's actually quite good in bullet, I noticed last time we played. He's got 21-30 in bullet. That's solid. Let's try g6. I lost yesterday to a guy I never played before here, the last game of my stream, in a strange modern defense that I never really faced before. He sort of tricked me into thinking he was a fish, and then I realized after he crushed me that he wasn't so bad. Strange modern defense with d6, knight d7, and then looked like a bad Benoni. But then I looked at it after the game, and it turns out it's some obscure variation. Monday I'm doing 15+2. Fridays we're doing blitz 5+3 only. Wednesdays is our unusual opening day when I play lines that I don't normally play, gambits and other fun stuff. Okay, so Liberian played e3. Basically it's like e3 against the King's Indian. White forfeits their opening advantage, but I've seen some good players, notably like Mamedyarov, do this with white. Mamedyarov did this twice against Gelfand last year or the year before, and I remember him tricking Gelfand into playing the Benoni at tempo up, but outplaying Gelfand because he's not a Benoni player. Basically, I mean, e3 is not a move you can play and expect to keep an opening advantage. We've got d5 probably possible here, but it's not necessary just yet. Now we'll make a decision next move, depending on what white does. I mean, if you play d5, you're playing the Mamedyarov tempo down Benoni. Otherwise, you're playing kind of Tarash with colors reversed. Now, I don't know if it's better to play d5. If I play d5, he plays d takes c. It's like a Catalan with colors reversed. I think I'd prefer to play this way. I also get this position a lot playing the accelerated dragon. Sometimes when you play the accelerated dragon and people play quietly against it, taking back with a knight there is very common against very ultra solid players. They take with the knight and try to draw, not allowing themselves to have any kind of pawn weakness in the position. The Latvian blitz player Oleg Krivonosov does that all the time. It's pretty tough to get an advantage. Actually, I was watching the Tau Memorial Rapid the other day. I saw that Krivonosov was playing Eric Hansen in one of these type of openings. I'm not sure what happened in that game. Have to check on Chess Bomb. Neon Sky said, I'm not a great player, mostly play by instinct. Would it be better to study a few openings deeply so I don't mess up early, or just focus on fundamental play? Neon Sky, I think that everybody should study the openings. Some openings, it's not going to hurt you. Yeah, I think you should have a few openings that you understand fairly deeply. I mean, you don't have to study 30 moves of theory unless you're playing the Najdorf or another hyper theoretical opening. To know like 15 moves in most variations of a few openings is probably enough. Okay, so H3. I faced this a lot here. This isolated queen pawn position can be reached in many different openings. The Nimzo, Queen's Gambit accepted. It's basically Tarash, Queen's Gambit with colors reversed. It's possible I've already played this against Liberian. He's stopping Bishop G4, and that stops my ability to put pressure on the D4 pawn. So I need an alternate way to develop my pieces. And I guess you could do something weird like Bishop E6. But for the most part, I want to put my bishop on B7. I had a friend who, when playing these kind of positions, would sometimes put the bishop on F5. But to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure that the bishop is really well placed on F5. I guess it's not too bad. It's active looking, but I don't know that it coordinates that well with the other pieces, and it can be kind of a target. It can get hit by knight H4 and stuff, but I prefer to put it on the long diagonal with bishop B7 and trying to do this. This is a standard position, more or less. I think this has got to be an exact variation of the Tarash reversed with an extra move, and this can be reached probably by a Grunfeld. It could be Grunfeld, it could be Queen's Gambit accepted, it could be, what else? E3 Grunfeld. I've actually played these kind of positions with white on occasion. I don't like it though. Not really. I don't feel comfortable with this. He's played this well though. Keeping pieces on the board. White wants to avoid exchanges in this kind of position, I think. Isolated queen pawn. He has a static weakness. When you have a static weakness and the pieces get exchanged, I think that the static weakness gets kind of magnified. Liberian playing perfectly. I think he's gotten stronger since the last time when he played me last year. Seems like he's playing better to me. I mean, I may be wrong, but I feel like he's improved. He's a tougher player than he was last year. So he may be working on his game. He's also playing a little bit better opening. I think Liberian was here this time last year when I started streaming, and he really didn't play the opening as well. Now this is very, very correct. He's done the best he could do. I'm not sure what I should do here, to be perfectly honest. I could play maybe knight b4 and try to blockade the d5 square. That looks interesting. The other possibility would be to develop my queen, but I don't really have a great square for my queen. Alright, we're going to go for it. For lack of a better idea, Knight b4 d5. I don't know, Mule Skinner, but how's your math? Because my math says that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 on it, and it's only defended 3 times. So there may be some tactical tricks with like bishop g5 or something, but no. I'm just snapping that off if he goes d5. I think he might have some tricks that has some compensation, but I don't see it. But it's not like a panacea. I mean, this doesn't magically make me have an advantage or something. A lot of people think that like the other guy has an isolated pawn, so that means that automatically I'm like clearly better or something. It's not. In fact, usually it takes 2 weaknesses to win a game. And this is something I wanted to do a lecture series on recently. I also work for chesslecture.com. I created a video recently over there about playing against the isolated pawn. But usually what brings down the position with the isolated pawn is like a secondary weakness. Not this necessarily like directly will lead to white losing the game, but a secondary problem. Oh, knight b4 d5. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you, Mule Skinner. I'm really in a very sarcastic mood today. I'm just kidding with you. But no, I thought you meant knight b4 d5 for white. Okay. Yeah, yeah, of course, right. So we're blockaded, but it doesn't magically make me have a great advantage or something. In fact, we don't have that much space. It's a little hard. It's a little hard to breathe here. We have just enough space to operate, but we're not really like in a wonderful situation with the space. Maybe I could play like queen c7, queen b8, and queen a8, you know, to use the long diagonal. He's played f3, I mean h3, Freudian slip. And for those of you who don't know, I studied psychology at Boston University, so I like to make the occasional pop psych references. Anyway, h3, you know, if he has to play f3 and h3, he starts to have a lot of weaknesses in his king side on the dark squares. So that's why I'm saying if I play like queen c7, queen b8, queen a8, we're able to influence the long diagonal to the point where he has to play something like f3, then we've got like knight h5, and we're looking at a lot of weaknesses on the dark squares. Now, my first thought when I went into this whole situation was like, well, we can trade knights on c3 if worse comes to worse, and play some kind of hanging pawn situation. And rook c1 is a good move. Knight takes e3. You know, it's not a great bishop. But in the endgame, my bishop pair might be advantageous. I'm not really sure what to do here. Queen d6 looks like a good move. Let's play that. It's a developing move, I guess. Standard kind of developing move. Of course, we have in mind that knight b5 is met by queen b8, which was an idea I was thinking about anyway. Queen c7, queen b8, queen a8. I can do queen b8, queen a8. And try not to create any pawn weaknesses that he can exploit. Any kind of simplification is slightly favorable to me. You know, if he starts trading pieces, that's okay for us. It's harder for him to come up with a plan than it is for us. He feels the onus is on him to do something because he has the worst pawn structure. In the endgame, that could be a serious liability. I've been on the white side of these situations many times. About 6 years ago, I lost to Oliver Mihawk. I remember one of my last round robin tournaments I played in. I lost in e3. I allowed this stupid thing somehow with white. I played basically the same position with white, so I wasn't really prepared in the opening, and tried to do what Liberian did, but I didn't get anything. Yeah, I don't really like the position for white. I don't feel like white has an advantage out of this opening. Sometimes in isolated queen pawn positions, black has like e6 structure with the bishop on e7, and that's a little scarier for black. But with the g6 fianchetto, I feel like the king is pretty safe, and so it's worlds easier for black to play than these structures with e6, bishop e7, in the Caro-Kann, Panov, or whatever. That's another opening that could lead to this kind of structure, Caro-Kann defense. But whenever you got a kingside fianchetto, your king is a little safer than the e6 type of structure. Anyway, guys, welcome to the stream today. A lot of instructive strategical concepts we're able to discuss here. Okay, so Wesley, Liberian, for lack of a better plan, he's got some nasty little tricks here. I honestly wanted to play like queen b8, but he has knight takes d5 and knight d7 forking my pieces, so I'm gonna have to deal with this in a different way. I'm thinking I'm gonna have to actually take on a6, take on c3, and then play something like rook c7. I don't really see a better option. Of course, if queen takes a7, I have rook a8, scooping his a pawn. So he's actually not threatening anything here. And when you think about it in those terms, then we realize we can play knight d5. Anyway, this is a good move. Threatening to win a pawn. Threatening c3. Threatening his bishop, which could be a good piece in the ending. It isn't a great bishop, though, with those pawns on the dark squares. c3 Sicilian. Thank you, Milos Kirstic. Right, c3 Sicilian, Caro-Kann, Queen's Gambit accepted. The list goes on and on. What kind of openings can lead to this structure? Liberian was very close to losing on time there. He found the defense. I'm not really sure how I want to handle this now. I can't win a pawn. I can smash this structure. I'm just concerned if... Yeah, it looks like I can take on e3, take on e5. And play the ending with queen e6. But we're not a lot better. We're slightly better. I guess it's a lot better, actually. We also have f6. Okay, he's collapsing. Look, Mom, no weaknesses. Now here, he's still... causing trouble, basically. Maybe I should oppose the file. Oh no. Alright. Okay, he's basically very aware of the time situation. That's why you have to be... No, he lost on time. I didn't think he was going to do that. Okay, it's clearly better, but there's tricks. He's active here. It was a pretty good game. Alright, Mule Skinner, SXPG, Lukash, Fures, Mitar, A Million Miles Away, and King Chaser. I don't think we're going to get to all those games. We've got an hour and a half left in today's stream, which should be about 15 minutes a game. So 6 max, Omaha. Mule Skinner, down to A Million Miles Away, probably for sure. Alright guys, we'll try to play as many games as we can. The faster games, though, it might be possible to play 7 more. With a 5-3 or 2 in there. Mule Skinner drives me crazy. I can't stand the F4 Grand Prix attack anymore. Now I forget what you play against the Caro-Kann, Mule Skinner. The advanced variation? Oh, the exchange? You guys know that Yakovenko won in one of these variations with Ryazantsev, like knight c6, knight f3, bishop g4. I had this with Mule Skinner earlier in a previous game. The draw variation, somehow at the United Arab Emirates. I've never seen a master, let alone a grandmaster, lose with white. But Ryazantsev, this guy is really inconsistent. He managed to lose in 17 moves against Yakovenko. I don't think I'm going to go there against Mule Skinner. We're going to play something. What did I play against Mule Skinner before? Knight c6? I don't remember what Mule Skinner did, actually. Mule Skinner, I don't remember what you did last time. Oh, I played, sorry, knight c6, knight f3, yeah. I can't play bishop g4, so I have to do g6. But actually, what's wrong with that? g6. Well, I mean, I don't remember if I must have played this against you, Mule Skinner. It's basically the reverse of... it's actually very similar to the last game. If white plays passively, we're going to transpose to the last game. Panov attack, right. You know, we're going to play the same structure in every game. But, I mean, bishop g4, it's crazy that Yakovenko won. And I've never seen anybody lose with white. But Ryazantsev tried to do something like, try to create, you know, he tried to reinvent the wheel or something and just got crushed. But that's only a draw. You know, that's the problem. If you play this line for black, you have to accept a draw if you play bishop g4. And there's no way around it. You know, you can't play for a win. And I think the Caro-Kann isn't really the best opening to play for a win in the first place. I've had people disagree with me. But that's how I feel about it. There are certain openings, like mostly Karpov repertoire, c6, Caro-Kann, the Petrov defense. I think you're going against the grain if you're trying to play for a win with those openings. You know, they're meant to be solid, but not necessarily like winning weapons for black. If white overpresses, they become, you know, good openings to win with, but only if white isn't Peter Leko, you know. If you're trying to win with black in the Petrov or the Caro-Kann against Leko Peter, you're probably doing things the hard way. Yeah, so Mule Skinner is actually playing passively. The best move for white after knight takes d5 is queen b3. Queen b3, knight takes c3. This is very theoretical. And knight takes c3, bishop c4. Knight d5, bishop takes d5. I played a bazillion games in Blitz and a few tournament games in this position, and it's unpleasant for black after queen b3. The other line is like bishop g5 here. That's more like a kind of Trompowsky sort of variation. And I have faced, I think, bishop b5 as well. So, but Mule Skinner, this is equal. I mean, I prefer black, honestly, though. It's the same kind of structure as last game. Crusader of Hope said, I like the main line with e4, d4, knight c3 against the Caro. Yeah, I mean, I played the Panov too, but I'll be the first one to admit that strategically it's a little bit like, it's a little bit shaky strategically, and I think that one has to argue from a purist standpoint that there's a reason why knight c3, knight d2, and the advanced variation are the main lines. You've got to admit that taking on d5 in the Caro, exchanging on d5 in the Caro is kind of a strategic concession. In the other variations, in the advanced variation, you play e5, you maintain a strong center. In the main line, black gives up his center with d takes e4. But when you play the Panov, you're trading your strong pawn on e4 for the pawn on c6. I mean, think about it, Strategically, that's inferior. I mean, in the very, very primitive, our basic primitive understanding of chess, I mean, it should be a concession. Playing e takes c6. Just take the pawns off the board, the e4 pawn and the c6 pawn. That's got to be good for black. It's basically an exchange queen's gambit with colors reversed. But as they say, before the end games, the gods have placed the middle game, and that's why a lot of players, like attacking players, I can reference someone like Larry Christensen, my old friend. He's an attacker. He's a very, very good tactician, and so playing the Panov is kind of a good line for him. And I also played it myself because I like open games too. But I think if you play the Panov, you have to play very, very aggressively to justify the structural inferiority of playing e takes d. Can you play the Sveshnikov for the win? Sveshnikov is a forced draw. I'm saying this like half in jest, but the Sveshnikov, like the Grunfeld, is one of those openings it's very sharp, but it's analyzed kind of to death, Yeah, of course, Sveshnikov's a good opening to try to play for a win. Objectively, it's a forced draw. If you look at all the top Grandmaster games, every game's a draw in the Sveshnikov. Queen b3. They're all opposite colored bishop endgames. It always leads to an opposite colored bishop endgame. I'm just half joking. Now queen b3. It is late. That's what this guy said to my friend. This 2000 player was playing my 2400 friend, and he offered a draw to my friend in an equal position, but my friend just kept trying to beat him in a drawn position, and then my friend was worse, and then my friend offered the guy a draw, but the guy was like, it is late, and he beat him anyway. So the weaker player won, and it was just funny. He sounded like Darth Vader. But I never heard anyone so bluntly say it like that. Alright, queen b3. Well, this is probably some obscure variation. Maybe we have to play knight takes c3, b takes c, b6, revert back to our friendly structure from last game. I don't really like it, to be honest. It seems like after take, b6, bishop a3, white has a fairly active game. I've actually played this kind of position that Muleskinner has here myself out of, ironically, like the black side of the English. I have knight b6 here. Knight b6, d5 is critical. That may be a problem. Knight b6, d5. Knight a5. Knight b6, d5, knight a5, queen b5, bishop takes c3, and I win a pawn with queen takes d5. Maybe bishop e6 is a move. sacrificing the pawn on b7. But I don't see how I can get away with that. This is interesting. I'm surprised I haven't faced this before. Knight b6, d5. Knight a5. It's not forced. I could play something like knight d4. But knight a5, then I'm trying to win this pawn. Go to c4. He's got all sorts of moves there. Queen b4. I don't want to play bishop takes c3. Alright, wasted a lot of time here. Can you play the Sveshnikov for the win? Yes. Sveshnikov and the Grunfeld are really good. Why don't you study chess from all the great Hungarian grandmasters of the 80s? You should spend a little time with go hang out with Andras Shadorya if you can handle it. I've heard he's a little nutty, but you might learn something. Adorjan's book on the Sveshnikov almost made me crazy. When I was like a 1200, I tried to understand it, and that was not a good idea. It was a very big waste of time. Okay, what about e6 maybe? If worst comes to worst, I can play e6. It blocks my bishop in, but it's a pretty solid move for black. This is really not what I wanted, but I don't know. Black is okay here. It's equal. It's basically equal, but e6 is not something I'm really thrilled about. But this is actually played. I was talking earlier about like knight takes d5, queen b3, and Caruana has played e6 in this position for black. You know, Fabiano plays the Caro-Kann fairly regularly, and this I know for a fact that Fabiano has played this. This e6 immediately is an interesting alternative for black after knight takes, instead of knight takes c3 on move 7 or whatever this is, move 8, 8 queen b3 e6. So I think we're basically transposing to that. You know, here I'm transposing to a Fabiano e6 against this thing, and the queen on b3 is a little bit weird. It's not totally weird, but he's got to guard his d4 pawn. I'm sure that the computer engine is like equal. You know, everything's equal. His pieces are slightly active, but he's got this isolated pawn. I'm absolutely certain that black is fine here, but I've never played this move in my life, and I don't really like it playing e6 if I don't have to. There are no bad openings below 2500 elo. That's an interesting theory. You think the two knights variation is good against the Caro-Kann? Yeah, it's okay if you like closed positions. But beware of like the famous games that like Bobby Fischer lost to Paul Keres, for example. You have to take care that in those closed positions that can arise after like e6 and bishop b4, black can get a good ending. You know, the way that Fischer lost against Keres twice in kind of like playing for two bishops in a closed position isn't always a big deal. Here now, bishop g5, it's a very aggressive move. It's just an oversight. Looks like he blundered. But I have to calculate this. Knight takes d4. Bishop takes d8. Knight takes b3. What's to calculate, actually? It's just an oversight. About to lose on time, but looks good. Mule Skinner a little too quick, a little too hasty with the bishop g5. I guess bishop g5, queen b3 don't really fit the same paradigm, you know, like one is kind of solid, this queen b3, but the bishop g5 is like an overtly aggressive move. You have to play just something boring after queen b3. You have to kind of play a boring position after queen b3, I guess. You can just take on d5 with symmetrical structure, or you can play rook d1. It's not an exciting life for white, but it's also not exciting for black. And I like that Megash quote there. There are no bad openings below 2500 elo. There are, though. I mean, people are getting better and better, to be honest. I used to be able to play like the Scandinavian with knight f6. I wouldn't even trot it out against the 2100 anymore. I learned that lesson. It's not really true. Or at least maybe your elo cutoff should be lower, you know. There are no bad openings below 2100 elo. There's more and more information available, you know, and the opening is the easiest part of the game to learn, honestly. So I think being practical is important. Alright, so we've got our bishop pair, and we won a pawn. We got to be happy here. He might have some comp. A little bit of compensation. I guess I'm not sacrificing my queen or anything fancy like that. Yes. Yes. Alright, now I have a trick. Tricks are for kids, my friend used to say. Tricks are for kids. This piece is hanging. So we're using that little detail to hang on to this wonderful pawn. Mr. Pawn. Will Skinner with a tough fight, man. Tough fight, dude. I don't want to hang anything. Now he's got some compensation. Jeez. He's going to hold on here. Damn, dude. How strong is Mule Skinner getting? Is he even playing for mate? Holy shit. Getting better at blitz too. I used to think Will Skinner was an old man. I was saying this yesterday, but I don't think he is. You know, I misjudged him. I thought he was like an old dude. Anybody named Mule Skinner, it sounds like an old guy. But I think he's actually not. Wow. Just fortunate. No, Mule Skinner has got to be younger than I thought. He's getting faster, you know. If you're like an old guy, you don't start getting faster at this stage. Alright, we were lucky at the end. SXPG, it was an interesting game, Yule Skinner, thank you. You were holding on from worse position. Good job. Somebody said you have a lot of friends, or one friend who says a lot of stuff. I don't know who you're talking to. I don't have any friends. Alright, no, knight f3, I'm just kidding. All you guys are my friends. 6. Try to play as many games as we can until 12:30. Guys, let's play c4. I usually play g3 lately. Okay, this is a bad move. Going into the so-called Marshall defense. The best move is d4. It's not everyone's cup of tea. You can certainly play other moves like e6 and c6. Or takes on c4. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 good moves for black. The best is d4. Knight f6 is not good because of this. It's relatively not good, you know. I mean, you don't lose any material. It's just white gets a strong center after this. Dr. Danny Kopek played this opening against me. He's the only one. It wasn't a real game though. It was an online banter game. I don't trust the Marshall defense. Not a real opening. Just kind of inferior for black. Probably g6. I don't know. The other move that Kopek played against me might be better. I mean, objectively, maybe bishop f5 is better. And then knight d2 is the encyclopedia. And I was speculating on this gambit. Bishop f5 or pawn sacrifice. Knight d2, knight f6, queen b3, queen c8, and now e4. That's an unplayed pawn sacrifice that I analyzed. Encyclopedia of Chess opening circa 1990 said h3 exclamation point, slight advantage for white. I remember to this day. h3 is given an exclamation point in the old Encyclopedia of Chess openings. I don't remember everything that clearly. But that I do. I've always remembered that. And I preach this to my students too. Very hard for black to influence the center effectively. This bishop on c8, look, it has nowhere to go. You know, it just doesn't have a way of influencing the game. And that's why black is really worse. It's not like a normal Grunfeld for black. He has, you know, he just doesn't have enough influence over the center, like in the normal d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, d5, c takes d5. Grunfeld defense is different. It looks similar, but it's not the same. Yule Skinner says he's 71. From 1971. You are old, wow. It's all relative. It's I'm old too. Stale Milk says 45, 46. What's the difference? Both are old as hell. No, you don't. Yeah, I guess 45, right? 46. No, he can be 45. He should be 45. But don't ask me why I know this so well. So I'm only 39. I'll always be 39 for the rest of my life. That's what I decided. 39 is the maximum. I think he's just kidding. Alright guys, check out my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. On Fridays, I usually try to put up a new video. Again, I said it very quickly. That's, if you don't know, that's Video Chess Training is the name of my channel on YouTube. I have a tendency to speak fast and not enunciate enough. SXPG. Well, not really a lot of choices here. Castles is recommended. There are some occasional strong players who have been brave enough to play this line with black. You find it in the database. The rare game, but it's not a reliable opening. You know, this is one of those openings like we were talking about. Megash said, all openings are playable below 2,500. That's not true. Below 2,100 maybe. You know, I wouldn't risk this higher than with black. I wouldn't play this against a master. At least a competent one. Black only has one really viable way of getting any counterplay, I would think. Well, obviously c5. I mean, this is kind of standard idea. However, if I played bishop e3, I would imagine that makes it kind of hard, you know, for black to get in c5. I think I played bishop e2 in this position before, and I've never really been certain with white, like, which move is better, bishop e3 or bishop c2. To be perfectly honest, I think, like, even if he, you know, even if I let him play c5 with something like bishop e2, c5, I could play d5 and still be better there. But objectively, this looks, it looks like he's trying to play e5 now. White could be very aggressive here and try to castle long. I think that it's interesting. Can go hyper aggressive. Though it's simply bishop e2, e5, d5 should lead to a big advantage. So his move knight d7 takes away this square from my knight, my bishop rather. In the event of like e5, d5, he goes f5, f4. I'm gonna need to move my bishop from e3 ultimately. So I'm looking at bishop e2, e5, d5, f5, and I want to play knight g5 there. But I'm not sure I guess I'm good there. Knight g5, f4, knight e6. Yeah, there's really queen d2 or bishop e2. It's a matter of taste. I think this is a really, really aggressive playing style with queen d2. Idea castles queenside and try to like just wreck him on the king side with maybe h4, h5. With bishop e2, I'm playing more conservatively. Here I could simply castle and let him take on d4. Black is slightly worse. Anatoly Karpov style, like castles kingside with a very minimal advantage for white, probably. But I'm hoping for more. Not to diss Karpov. Karpov's one of my favorite players. But he is relatively conservative in many instances. You know, Karpov would prefer to play for like a small advantage rather than like throwing in the kitchen sink, whereas other players would get really psycho. He prefers controlled aggression, or preferred, because he's basically retired. Karpov's not in chess at all. I mean, his exhibitions in the last years have been horrendous. He comes here to Budapest and sometimes plays an exhibition game. He just loses like to everybody. Hard to understand for a guy who was world champion in like 2780 and one of the best positional players in history. How he could become weak suddenly is beyond my beyond my comprehension. He lost his match against Timan like some exhibition match against Timon. I mean, even when they were both young, like Timon had very little chance against Karpov. It's almost like a joke. But it's a matter of style. If you look at this kind of position, this is the aggressive play. This is a solid style move. Rook e8 to me doesn't make sense. Honestly, maybe instead of 97, this is the sharpest for black. Trying to play f5. I'm not sure if you can play it right away because of queen b3 check and knight g5, but that should be considered for black, trying to play f5. I think it's possible. Queen b3 check, king h8, knight g5, queen e8, or something like that. Now rook e8. I mean, you're taking the rook off the f pawn advance. That seems inconsistent. I could play g4. But Ivan Sokolov, like type of aggressive player, would just play g4. Whereas the Karpov would castle kingside. So it's really a lot of room for stylistic interpretations in chess. h4, probably not good here because of knight f6, I guess. He does defend the e5 pawn. I mean, maybe that's what he's trying to do, actually. Move his knight, you know, with knight f6. Which argues for g4 for me. They have other ways to deal with that, though. Just castles is good. I have no problem with g4. If I was in a more aggressive mood, I would play it. Aya Kamiki is now auto-hosting. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. And thanks to those who have donated via PayPal. I've had a lot of small donations, and it's really, really helpful to help me keep the stream going 6 days a week, and also have time to do YouTube videos. It's even if you just donate $5 a year, it's really, really great that you support me in helping to make and contribute with the stream and the YouTube channel. So thanks to you guys for that. If you do want to donate via PayPal, you can do so. It's awesome. I applaud everyone who's helping. And if you can't afford to donate, just being here and taking part and contributing to the discussion is enough. So thanks for that. Now knight f6, the position becomes like a king's Indian, and I'm going to play knight d2. We've stopped knight h5, which is very essential. And this is a quiet method of play by me. I mean, the most important thing is that I'm banking on if he tries to play c6, he has a really bad structure after that. I take, and that isolated pawn is pretty nasty. I have an advantage on the queen side. We're playing maybe a4, a5 in some lines to chase away the knight on b6. He's backward on the c file. This is just a really pleasant slight advantage for white that's not going to disappear anytime soon. Oh, Plucro is our... Yeah, I don't know what's up with our moderator. Jeroen has been missing. Plucro has come in handy. I mean, right at the moment when I didn't know where Jeroen went, Plucro stepped up and agreed to help moderating here, and it's been a really timely, really timely thing that he did. So he wants to play knight c5. I mean, I could play b4, a5, a3, rook c1, bishop f8. I kind of like rook c1, but I'm a little bit nervous about bishop f8, bishop c5, trying to trade off my... Why not a3? There's a Karpovian move if there's ever been one. a3. Just in case I need to play b4 at some point to stop you from putting a piece on c5. And yeah, the a6 is also prophylactic, stopping knight b5, but that's a passive move inherently. White is... Maybe I should play b4. This is a tough call. You know, you've got a weakness here on c7. Now it's really, really blatant that weakness on c7. He wants to play bishop b7 though. Alright, let's go for it. This is pretty extreme. But he's low on time and I'm in a Karpov kind of mood. Pretty extreme maneuvering. Well, now we're probably going to change plans and take that. Pawn on a6. I mean, it doesn't matter. I've got a lot of good moves here. That might be a mistake, though. Bishop takes. Should take the material. It's concrete. And we get back to a c6 whenever we want to, basically. I see. Oh, d6. d6, c5 isn't such a good idea for me. Yeah, I think we've got d6 a little later. He wants to play like, what, knight h5 or something? Okay. Yeah, I thought he was going to try to play knight h5 and knight f4, but it's already going south. I mean, white's got a huge advantage on the queen side. I don't know, the best for black was probably when I played knight b4. It's tough, I don't know. You could play a5, but it's very weakening the queen side. Alright. Lukasz, where are you from? Poland. Alright. Lukasz. I'm calling it Kash because it's like Hungarian, but I guess it's like Lukasz. My pronunciation, even after living here in Budapest for 14 years, is still bad. Slavic pronunciations, not good. Lukasz. So Lukasz is up 5-3. It's yeah, Plukro, thanks for helping, man. No challenge today. c4. I've got a number of systems I play against c4. Let's do the English defense. You know, if d4, we can play English defense with e6 or b6. These people who play the English like to fianchetto their bishop with g3 generally, and they don't like it when you go b6 and bishop b7. This puts a lot of English players off. You know, they're always counting on fianchettoing their kingside bishop. So they don't like the variation. By the way, I mean, it's like a main line. I mean, knight f3, bishop b7, g3, bishop takes f3, e takes f3. That's a very important variation and interesting and complicated and not easy for black to equalize against. So, but most people who play the English, especially amateurs, don't like, you know, that line with the doubled pawns, and, you know, it disturbs them to not be able to play like g3. Okay, this is another line where they can try to get it in. They can try to play g3 here. I had a Hungarian team championship game in the winter against some FIDE master. I think the guy played something strange here, like g3, f5, queen c2. I had never faced that before. That was weird. Never seen anyone do queen c2 in that position. But not so bad for white, I guess. What else, guys? I have to make an announcement that normally I do a simul on Sundays every week at 6:30 p.m. CET, but I'm normally playing a team game in the morning for the Hungarian Team Championship, my Hungarian team. On Sundays, usually I play on our second team as first board for the Hungarian army team, Honved. But Our first division team is on the verge of relegation. Almashi is playing first board, and the rest of the team in Gladora. We have like these two monster players, but the rest of the team has just been sucking. Like Beliavsky lost twice. Chatalbashev, nobody can win a game, like the whole team, except for Gladora. And now they're desperate, so they're calling me in. They only want me to play when they're like on the verge of relegation, and they're calling me in the special reserves. You know, they come crying to me when they're basically about to be eliminated from the first division. So I've been called to play an away match in Mako, which is near Szeged in the southeast of Hungary, on Sunday. So I'm not going to be able to do the simul on Sunday. Just letting you guys know, no simul this Sunday. The following week we should be back to the regularly scheduled program. Bishop G2. We can play Bishop B4 here, but he plays knight E2. Oh, I tried a really weird plan against this guy Vladimir Volozhin. No, I should just play knight F6 here. There's no reason to play Bishop B4 now. Against Volozhin, he's the guy who played Queen C2, but I did something weird like knight A6 and knight C5, which was kind of cool. Now Bishop B4 might be good. Volozhin did F3 eventually. Maybe I should play knight C5 anyway. Then he get desperate and they start calling me in. There's only like a maximum number of foreign players that can play on a team at one round, I think, and we had like Beliavsky, Chatalbashev, Igor Stoll, and the Vietnamese GM, and so there were basically too many foreign players for me to play on the first team. But now that Beliavsky loses all his games, and none of the foreign players won a single game in all their matches, they're calling me in to play one of the lower boards. Knight on GE2. I don't know if this was really good what I did here. I think it actually is okay. Yeah, this is okay. Knight C5 now. Putting pressure on E4. What is this opening? It looks like Mykonos versus the Dutch. Is this normal? This is a kind of Dutch in a sense. Exactly. Well, it's an English defense. That's what I would define it as. Wow, he really called my bluff here. Oh no. That's not supposed to happen. Now I have to sack a piece or something? That's not sound. Man, it looks like we're busted. Not busted, but this is gonna get really weird now. Darn. I guess knight A6 was wrong. B4. I can't see how I can sacrifice a piece here and justify it. So I messed up. I just messed up, man. I have to go back to A6. I don't see how I can do this otherwise. Try to get my knight back in the game. This is a very, very dubious waste of time. I could have played C5, but it just weakens my position too much. I'd rather play knight B8 and just play, wasting time. Oh, this is really bad for me. This guy's pretty strong. He even plays knight takes e4, which is absolute best. Knight takes e4. Well, alright. Thank God his knight is on e2. I thought he would play bishop takes. Maybe we're not that bad here. Maybe I should play e5. That's kind of slow. We made a terrible, terrible mistake with knight a6 in that position. Now we're just clearly worse. Nothing that Richard Rapport couldn't escape from, but we need to do like a Houdini. Try to play a5 and how to get our knight back in the game. Well, we could play knight c6 maybe, in the right circumstance. I think he should have considered taking with the bishop. But I guess it's more normal what he did. b4 was a good move. Looks like I'm just clearly worse here. Wow. What percentage of games are decided by the clock? It seems like it's well over 50. At this time control? Absolutely. I mean, some people might argue that's not the case, but... Lukash is pretty strong, man. This guy is serious. He's playing flawlessly. Damn, dude. Trying to come up with a plan. I think a5 is a good move. Maybe like rook a7. Is that really a serious? Am I being serious here? I really feel like Ricard. Rapport Ricard. This looks like some kind of nonsense he would play. Look how merciless this guy is, though. Knight h5, queen g4. It's like positional god. He's pretty strong in bullet, but not too many games. What? Maybe he made a mistake. He hung his queen. Oh no. I was wondering like why he's playing f5. Man, positionally you played an awesome game. Just kind of rushed it there. I mean, obviously f5's a little bit too quick. Like e5. e5 might be good. Or maybe just do nothing. You know, wait for me to do something. I'm basically in Zugzwang here. Although I have knight d7 in some positions as a trick. Like the queen takes e6. Maybe I have a discovery. I don't see anything really. No, man, that was a massive game by white. I'm in terrible situation, like getting crushed. Knight a6 was a very bad miscalculation. He didn't see the point of bishop c8. I was desperate. I had to defend e6, so that was the whole restructuring plan. Rook a7, bishop c8. It's pretty horrible. I'm basically down a rook at that point, you know. It's worse than being down a bishop. Down a knight, sorry. So I think I should have played a4 in the utopian situation. If I had played a4 prior to all that nonsense with bishop c8, at least in the final count, I could play like rook a5 and maybe the rook could get back in the game. But it looks like at the end I'm just playing like a rook down strategically. Black has to be lost there. I mean, there's no way I'm not lost. Furace, another new opponent from India. New account? No. Okay. All right, sir. So c5 Sicilian. I do ask that everybody who plays me have like at least like 50 games. So it's not an account that was just created here today to troll me or whatever. c3 Sicilian. This is probably my worst statistical opening for black. I've tried basically everything against the c3 Sicilian. Played almost every variation known to man at one point or another, without really a lot of success in any particular line. I don't think I've ever, I'm really having a hard time if I ever won a single game against the c3 Sicilian. I'm serious. I can't remember ever winning against anybody. I mean, there was some fish, like some weak players. Somewhere in my history, I must have beaten some 2,000 player in the c3 Sicilian, but as far as any kind of master level player that I've ever played, I don't know if I've ever beaten a master level player with black in the c3 Sicilian. I remember like a 2200 maybe once, but it's just really hard to think of my score against the c3 Sicilian. It's absolutely abominable. Tons of draws and lots of losses and a lot of games, really. I'm exaggerating. I mean, there's got to be a handful of games I won against master level players, but very, very few. I've forgotten those even. I mean, there may be some 2200s. But people started playing the c3 Sicilian against me because of the chess base. If you look it up, I mean, it says like, worst opening. It does like an opening survey. It will tell you that like my absolute worst, my worst result is against the c3 Sicilian. It used to be. I used to have problems with the Trompowsky too, but that's gotten better. I have a system against the Trompowsky that I'm happy with now. As far as the c3 Sicilian, I never really settled on one variation. Okay, bishop e3 now. I guess I had this against Peter Ach Peter, many years ago. Bishop e3 threatens to take on c5 when I'll have a hard time getting it back. So I guess I have to take. But I don't think this was the game against Ach, actually. The move order was slightly different. But I expected white to take with the piece here. He's going into a line that I'm not sure what the evaluation is here. Another isolated queen pawn position. That's like our third one today with black. Why do you prefer g6 over bishop g4? The last time I played bishop g4, I got my ass handed to me by some Icelandic grandmaster, Stefan Kristjansson or something like that. It was really ugly. I played bishop g4 and I lost to Sergei Smagin, Kristjansson, a bunch of people. I didn't really... bishop g4 has disadvantages too. Every line does. I mean, in bishop g4, the b7 pawn is always weak. You're not developing your king side. There's no placebo. What am I saying? There's no panacea, magic way for black to equalize against the c3 Sicilian. I mean, any variation you choose is going to have some difficult variations that are going to be hard. I guarantee it. Like, you pick any variation you want. It's not easy to equalize. Knight f6, bishop g4 with d5. I played bishop f5, which is like a kind of modern idea now that people stole from me. Anything really. There's no easy recipe for black. Whatever line you play, you have to learn it really, really deeply and play basically perfectly to equalize. And whatever line you play, you just have to learn it really, really well. But I think there's certain lines that are kind of dubious, you know. Bishop c4, an interesting move. I think d5 may be critical. That's interesting. d5 right away. But bishop c4 also makes sense. Probably I can equalize by playing like bishop g4 now. This is one kind of concrete way of dealing with the situation. Bishop c4 is a good move though, because if he doesn't do that, black's going to play bishop e6, and I actually prefer black if I can get in bishop e6. If he plays some passive move, or even bishop d3, after bishop e6 I think black will have the better half of the game. So now I would evaluate this as about equal. I've given up my bishop pair to basically neutralize his initiative. This is the typical rating distribution. Classical quite a bit higher than blitz here. If you look at mine, it's about the same. I don't understand it honestly, because it's harder to get games in classical chess. It takes more time. It seems like it would take more time to build up a high rating. But it seems like there's more inflation in the lichess classical ratings than there is in the blitz ratings. h3 followed by queen b3 maybe. Yeah, I'm just hacking that knight off, you know, to give myself some counterplay against d4. I normally don't like trading the bishop, but we don't have time for some kind of luxurious bishop b7. Once I got my queen trapped on a5, trying to do b6, I'm never going to ever play like b6 when I have a queen on a5 again in my life, I think. I'm not really sure if this is the best. Low maintenance plan for black. Actually, Furais is he's from India. We're missing our normal Indian players. Constant Change. There was another guy. We had some regulars. Constant Change is usually here most days. He's about the exact same strength, maybe slightly weaker. Well, about the same as Furais, actually. Whenever you're right, you gain points. What do you mean points? So, Crusader of Hope, I don't really think that, you know, one of those lines like g6 or bishop g4 is better. I mean, I played bishop f5 instead of bishop g4 in some random games, and then Then I basically quit playing tournaments, and a few years later, I'm noticing like there are 2600s playing bishop f5. People are just like desperate for new ideas. Now what? Well, we could play anything. Queen h5, g4, though. That kind of squashes that idea. Trading queens would be nice, but the b7 pawn is a weakness. I don't want to trade off his Isolani. I guess e6 makes some sense. There's no bishop g5. Yeah, we go for blockade. No bad pieces. They say that was a very big thing. This is one of my philosophies lately, strategically, trying to not have bad pieces ever. I'm not a big Fischer expert on Bobby Fischer. I didn't study all of his games. I'm not a huge fan. I like his games, like all of the great players. But it's said about Fischer that he was a player who never ever had bad pieces. He was very careful to avoid having bad pieces. And like here, the way I've traded off my bishop with bishop takes f3, the queen's bishop here is no exception. This piece is usually one of the worst pieces and the most difficult piece to develop. And this position is like a, you know, which piece is the worst minor piece? There it is. It's the queen's bishop. And that's why this guy went out. He traded himself off on f3. Not to say that bishop on e3 couldn't become a strong piece if the position were to open up or something. But it just seems like it's the Achilles heel in every, you know, every situation. Always seems like it's that piece, that queen's bishop, that is the piece that has trouble strategically. If you're a GM or IM, you generally don't play much classical online. That seems to be the trend, but I think those guys are making a big mistake. I've been there, done that, you know, playing lots of blitz and only blitz. I don't think I really got that much out of it. I'm learning a lot more by playing longer games, even if I'm not playing the strongest players in the world. h4 is a really psychotic, aggressive move. Wow, dude. He's trying to set up bishop g5, it looks like. Well, I guess I can just play d5. I mean, knight d5, excuse me. But doesn't... Actually, knight d5 does threaten to win a pawn on c3. Just take the pawn right off. With knight d5, knight e4, I suppose he's going to go for attacking chances. Don't I have, like, queen f5 here? This looks like a good move. I'm getting a little low on time. He's got weaknesses in this field over here. You see my mouse highlighting this area, this quadrant of the board after h4. I don't really have time to find the absolute best move, but I just feel like he's got some attacking chances lined up with like bishop g5. He wants to start, like if I play knight d5, he's going to play knight e4, avoid exchanges and start stirring up some problems for me on the king's side. So by trading queens, I reduce his attacking potential. Got this guy eyeing the b2 pawn, so he doesn't try anything fancy with d5. And bishop g5 is kind of a dead end. He did d5, but he's dropping his nugget on b2, I would think. Maybe this simplifies out somehow, you know, to a drawn ending. I have to be careful a little bit, I guess. King side is kind of shattered. He's getting his pawn back. He's taking on d5. I'm taking on b2. He's taking on c6. He's taking on a7. Maybe that's his idea. I guess I could play a6, but then I'm slightly worse. f4, bishop c5. Actually, bishop takes b2 would be a good move. f4, bishop c5. Leaves him with some advantage. And if I have to play a6, looks awkward for me. Technical position, bishop takes b2, bishop takes c6, b takes c, bishop takes a7. And I need to find something there, because black seems to be worse. I don't really have an answer for that. Because he has rook d7 at the end of the day. It's pretty amazing. I can't afford to lose my a-pawn. It's just not allowed. Okay. Rook d7. He takes over the file if I go there. This guy's got very good technique. Wow. 1800 in blitz. Damn. Knight b4. I need to activate this rook. Fighting for equality here. h5. Okay. And this guy's technique is amazing. Picking off my h-pawn with clear advantage. I thought he was going to go for the h-pawn, but he changed his mind. Now I have rook b8. He trades rooks. Holy crap. That's a pretty impressive game, dude. was actually better in one moment. How was I better? Rook e6. Wow, that was an impressive game, man. Very nice. Mitar is up next. Couldn't hold on. H5 was a bad move. That was a losing move strategically. But I was already in an unpleasant situation. Very nice game. Well, same opening. Mitar 843. Played Mitar before. White's play seemed awful strong for an 1800. He played like a master, technically. He had some fans there in the chat room, too. They're like, beat the hell out of this IM. That's interesting. Not too many people have a lot of Chan's fans or Chans in the chat room. Must be popular. But a good game. Funny that we have the same exact opening the very next game. So we lost one today. Mitar is 2200. I don't remember. Oh, this was the guy. Okay, he played the French defense and then he was worse the other game as black. So C3 Sicilian. I don't have any problem with my opening there. Last game I didn't lose because of the opening. But he played H4 and the rest of the game technically like perfect. I think H4 was the turning point. A very aggressive move. And then the bishops became very strong in the ending. Knight A3 now. This isn't really common here. But what can I do about it, actually? Typically people playing white don't play knight a3 in this position. It's much more common to see it played like right away, basically. Before even moving the bishop, it would be typical to see knight a3 straight up, before this is played, because white often tries for bishop c4 and threats against f7. So the way the Mitar is playing this delayed knight a3 with bishop e2, I mean, it technically should be kind of inferior for white to the main lines. We will all play the c3 Sicilian against you from now on. I don't feel that the opening was any issue for me in that game. But maybe it's just a bad luck opening for me. Knight a3. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Strange combination of knight a3 and bishop e2. If I take on d4, he can take with a knight. That would be normal, I would think. He also has his threats of knight b5, so I have to be prepared. I don't like to play knight a6 if I can help it. I'd rather not have to do that. Knight a6. All right. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. This should be fine for black. Should be fine, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do. b6 doesn't look quite right. Takes on d4. Maybe I'm supposed to take on d4 and play e5. cd4, knight takes d4, e5, knight b5, and like knight a6 or something. It's like kind of weakening for black. Do I have any alternatives? Knight c6 allows c4 and d5, which is usually good for white. b6 looks bad. But I kind of hate playing c takes d4 and helping his knight go from like d4 to b5 where it's really active. b6 is weak. C takes d4 again. Knight takes d4, e5, knight b5. Maybe I'm missing something. Like I can play knight c6 instead of knight a6. It's still not really anything to be excited about. He has the d6 square. I don't like this position, really. I'm sure that it's okay if I play perfectly somehow, but difficult to find natural moves for black. Maybe I take on d4 and play a6, stopping knight b5. And then bishop f3, queen d6, bishop f3, queen d8. It's very awkward. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I've literally played like hundreds of games, but I don't know that I've faced this exact move before. Knight takes d4, knight c6 is very uninspiring. Knight takes d4, e5 is uninspiring. b6 is uninspiring. a6 is weakening. But maybe a6 isn't that bad. Maybe that's the lesser of the evils. You could play a6. Yeah, maybe it is the lesser of the evils. I don't know. I'm a little concerned about like knight e5 there. Maybe I shouldn't be though. Alright, let's try this. Down to 1 minute. Play something. I agree not to get a bad position. You know, I think it's more important not to get a bad position. I'd rather play a good position with 1 minute than a bad position with 5 minutes. That's my philosophy. So basically I'm meeting knight c4 with knight bd7 and pawn takes pawn with queen takes pawn. Knight e5 with c takes d. c4 with queen d6. So we have something worked out against a little bit of something worked out against everything. I think that a6 might be the right move. I'm very confident that it might be. I normally don't like playing a6, but it's kind of weakening the queen side, but it's maybe essential here. Take away b5 from his pieces. We can put the knight on d7 to guard b6. There are many lines with knight a3 in the c3 Sicilian. You can play it right away. Sveshnikov played it against me on move 4. He's the biggest expert in the world from the old generation, before like Tivyakov and people like that started to market the c3 Sicilian. I think that Sveshnikov against me played, he probably played very early, like move 4. So Mitar decided to play bishop e3, threatening to take the pawn. Now I guess I can play knight g4 here. Well, I guess I can play a lot of things, but I can't. Let me see, knight d2. Knight d7. I guess I'm running out of time. This looks awful good for white. Yeah, Mitar is 2000 in blitz, but 2200 classical. Man, everybody's higher in classical than in blitz. I don't understand that. I'm like 2450 in both. Maybe it would be better to play like c takes d here. I'm not sure why I didn't do that. Yeah, that was a better move. I should play c takes d, and then black should be okay. I think knight bd7 is slightly passive. Bishop e3 seems like a normal move to me, honestly. Blue Crow. I think I made a mistake. I mean, besides giving him a 4-minute time advantage, why don't I just take on d4? I started to see ghosts here. This is... Guess I lost my concentration after losing the last game, but... Man, he has d takes c there. I mean, this looks good for white. Now he played queen c1. But I think he should just play d takes c, and he's just better in that position. Queen c1's not good. I mean, you just do this. This was a mistake. I mean, knight bd7. Stay on page. c3 Sicilian is haunting me. People are asking me why I play this line. Well, I don't really play this line all the time. This is just one line that I play. Bishop takes d4. Get rid of the arrow, man. It's driving me crazy. Alright. So e5 kind of weakens my structure. I'm not sure I like that. My queen is kind of exposed here. It's going to have to move. b6. b6 is interesting. I think that Mitar is playing too fast now. He's getting nervous because of me being in time pressure. But he's lost his edge. I guess his position is still fine, but this actually is an annoying move. This is strangely placed. This is strangely placed. His bishop was much more natural trying to get to f3 against my queen and rook. So I managed to, avoid the worst here, basically. Damn, dude. Why am I playing queen c6 to c7? To avoid b5, knight a5. He's really fast. For a guy who doesn't play blitz, Mitar is pretty fast. 340. Isn't many games compared to his classical. He's got 859 classical, 340. Okay, I played very, very slowly, but... I'm afraid I just got tired in these last two games. Not playing very well. Against the c3 Sicilian, my nemesis. Maybe we have some threats. Not really anything special. I have one idea. He's pretty good at blitz, man, for a guy who doesn't play blitz. I decided to sack a pawn. What is going on? Old and slow. Yeah, I played recklessly here. I mean, it wasn't necessary to even sacrifice a pawn, but whatever. I thought he was starting to kind of panic. What's this? Whoa. Yeah, I mean, I guess panic would be a fair way to describe what happened here. He has some strong knight on e5, admittedly. My king isn't really safe. Possibly fatal pin. Guys, I have time for like one more game after this. I'm really, really lucky against Mitar. I was in deep, deep trouble. And I played the whole game really wishy-washy style. Not being really sure, wasting a lot of time. Oh no. No, I have to avoid disaster here with king f6, but we get to technical land and it's over. Yeah, sorry Mitar, you had me in pretty bad shape there. Alright. Last game for the day. I'm going to play one more against King Chaser, then I've got to go. So, good luck King Chaser. He's usually like one of the last ones. He miscalculated the fork on d7. I played very hesitantly in that game. wasted 5 minutes on one move. But it was an unusual order of moves that I don't recall facing before. King Chaser, if he doesn't respond in the next like 30 seconds, will play this guy who took me out yesterday. The same. No, he's got very few classical games. I don't know. King Chaser's not here. Alright. A God of Snooker played like a god yesterday. We'll see if he continues the same today, or if he's human. I walked into some kind of weird modern defense variation. That I had never seen in my life. And I underestimated him. I thought he was just your average 1800 lichess player, but he played an insanely good game against me. With only one mistake, really. And not even that was like clearly a mistake. This was a very, very nice game if you guys want to look at it. He just wasted me out of the opening. And I thought I was smart, but I probably had a way to equalize if I had been careful. But I was following some weird game, Hubner-Spassky. And Hubner, of course, was a little more accurate than me. Little Pingwing, I should put on an alarm clock so I can watch me. I'm good at forgetting to watch streams in the morning. So e3 quiet move. But it's fine. It's transposing to some kind of mainline Nimzo. You could get another isolated queen pawn position. That'd be like the 4th or 5th one today. Yet another isolated queen pawn position. Probably. Now, white has a couple different ways of playing. Mainly castles. Took on d5. This transposes to Panov. So mainline Panov. So guys, last game for today. We'll be back tomorrow with Weird Wednesday. Oh, he knows the main move here. Queen c2. The other move is Bishop d2. Queen c2 is a favorite of mine and Larry Christensen as well. So God of Snooker quite well prepared theoretically. Not easy to say which is better, Bishop d2 or Queen c2. I don't know about g6. I think h6 is the main line for black here. Now Bishop d2 seems inconsistent to me. Having played Queen c2, we don't really need Bishop d2 to defend c3. So therefore, that seems like a slight mistake. Now Bishop e7, Knight f6. Knight f6 doesn't make a lot of sense here. Maybe Bishop e7. Knight c6 is certainly okay. But if I play Bishop e7 right away, I have a concrete threat. Then he defends, then I go back. Maybe Knight c6. White's threatening Knight e5 sometimes. Bishop e7, a3. This also looks like a c3 Sicilian too. I don't know, this guy is scary that I lost to him the first game we played, and he's only 1800. So I'm a little bit paranoid that he's a really strong player. Play the opening here sharply. I don't know about bishop d2 though. Why do we need to play bishop d2 for white? If I play knight f6 or knight c6, I don't know. This is definitely fine. I was thinking also bishop e7 might be a good move. How am I going to develop my queen's bishop? Perennial problem. Another idea that I've occasionally seen is like rook e8, bishop f8. That looks like something Rockport would do. Maybe bishop e7, bishop f6. I think actually that was played against me when I was white by Samson Benin at the Marshall Chess Club once. There's an advantage in playing bishop e7 right away. Well, probably not a big deal. I think against Samson I ended up sacrificing my d4 pawn for nebulous compensation. Castles bishop e7, bishop f6 next. That's probably the right plan for black. Bishop e7, bishop f6, pressuring d4. Looks like a French McCutcheon. Wow, that's one interpretation I didn't expect to hear. If knight f6, well, if knight f6, he plays, I guess, a3. I think this is more stable. Strongest 1800 in the world, presumably. Seems to know theory, a very obscure variation of the modern yesterday, which I thought was just nothing, but it turns out it's actually not bad. This looks like something that the computer would play. Knight takes d5 and white's a little better. I guess it's just a weak move. I mean, you know, you would think that a3 would be the right move, right? Stopping knight b4. Objectively, it doesn't look right to play knight takes d5. It looks very modest. Tempting to take with the queen, but my development is too far behind. I think we're satisfied to equalize here. White is not worse in this position, but it's a very, very modest move. Knight takes d5. Bishop h7 check, and bishop back. That's weird. So I think he's allowing me to play knight b4. But in that position, white might be better. I'm not sure I should go for this. You know, it's like a kind of temptation. Better to focus on the d4 pawn. This would be a sucker move. Knight b4. Knight b4, bishop takes, knight e5, and white is better. But we focus instead on the d4 pawn. And now maybe black is better. Because at the end of the day, it's like a Petrov or exchange French or something like that. And it seems like whoever starts attacking the isolated pawn first in these symmetrical positions is better. Knight takes d5 isn't bad for white, but he has to continue actively somehow. Bishop h7 was a strange move. Sort of just trying to sucker me into playing knight b4. Now we have to be good after bishop g4. Slightly better for black. I mean, typically the move would have been a3 instead of knight takes d5. But even here my advantage is pretty negligible. Bishop takes f3. It's probably a draw, even though I'm temporarily winning a pawn. If I play something like rook c8, maybe we can try for more. Bishop takes, knight takes d4. Well, actually, I should play bishop takes d4, I guess. That may not be nothing. But let's try that. Bishop takes d4. If we can win a pawn, we should try to win it. Knight takes d4, opposite color bishop, so that looks very drawish to me. Here, I guess this is what most computers would play. I almost played rook c8 though, not winning a pawn. But even if you win this isolated pawn, it's a typical situation where it's not so easy for black to win just because you won the isolated pawn. Now, I remain with a kind of weak pawn that's easy to gang up on. This happened against one of my other opponents today, Mule Skinner. But I think the God of Snooker should try for something trickier there. You know, maybe not trading pieces. This is still a very difficult technical position for black to win. In my experience, I've drawn weaker players, even a pawn up in situations like this. Alright. Queen d6, queen d7. We try to overprotect our d-pawn. We want to stay as active as possible. Rook c8 is interesting. King is bad on h8. I'm going to need to waste the tempo to play king g8. Actually, what am I doing? I'm about to allow him to hold immediately. So I'm forced to play something like queen d6 or queen d7. This guy's pretty strong, man. He lost a pawn, but he still has incredible drawing chances here. Alright, rook e8, rook e5. I guess, for lack of a better plan. Could sort of try queen. No. I don't have another idea. Okay, we have back rank threats. He's a minute ahead of me on the clock. King g8. We try to get as active as possible here, keeping all of our pawns protected, playing king g8. h4. Reminds me of another game I don't really want to remember. I mean, this guy's pretty strong. To beat me once and make me work like this. And he's fast, too. He's higher in bullet than in blitz, though. That's pretty rare. Now here I probably should trade rooks, I think. I don't know, though. I also have rook c8. What does that do? He's actually in an awkward pin. So I have d4, queen c6 isn't possible. d4, queen c7 is a problem. Well, maybe I'm winning that ending. Should I play queen check first? This guy's pretty tough, man. Not your average 1800. I don't know. Maybe this is winning. We have a very, very strong passed pawn. Queen d3. Queen c7, queen takes d2 looks honestly pretty good for me. Now we have a lot of work to do. Not an easy position to win. I've drawn games like this. Would be nice to induce another weakness. The rook ending looks like a draw. Rook c3. No, I drop a rook there, actually. So I have to go back. And this guy is extremely strong for an 1800 lichess player. Let's try to create a second weakness. I don't know. Maybe we can target his A pawn. Rook endings look drawish. So I don't really want to trade queens here. The idea would be to attack his king somehow. But I don't really know how to achieve that. Okay, the rook ending is very technical. Look at how he plays, like a robot. Excellent defense. He's got 2 minutes more than me. I'm sure how I have no idea how to make progress here. Got to make him think somehow. Well, thanks for the draw for a god of snooker. It's very generous of you. It's kind of weird to offer a draw there. We've got to be better here. Is this just winning? Could be. This is close. I don't know. It looks suspiciously close to winning for black. I think I'm just one tempo faster than him. Oh, he doesn't know what to do. I mean, e4 seemed like the only plan there. I mean, the other line here, I'm just one tempo too fast. That was... I'm not sure. There was a very interesting line here with a different defensive try for black, for white, I mean. In this position here, I wasn't certain. I guess I am winning. Wow. Here it was a draw. Oh, h5 is a draw. Oh, man. It's a draw, but he missed h5. So I made a blunder here. I made a blunder taking on g4. I should play f6. I thought about it, but I didn't think it was enough. I didn't have time to calculate. But after take, f6 takes, king e2, king d5. f6 takes. Yeah, I guess I was afraid this was a draw. Wow. This isn't a draw. I'm too far away. Yeah, I didn't have time to calculate this. Apparently I was winning, but I allowed that one move draw. Alright, guys. Interesting endgame. King f5 instead of king e5. King f5 instead of king e5. No, I mean, I think that king e5 is the best move. King f5 doesn't help. Guys, we have to go. I'll be back tomorrow with unusual opening stream, blitz and classical chess. No, this was... The king e5 was fine. I just need to play f6 here, but I didn't have time to calculate. I had 5 seconds for every move. I mean, if it was like if I had enough time, I would figure it out. But this was a big blunder. I didn't see h5, and he's got a draw there. So we will see you guys later tomorrow. Who said that lucky endgame? Oh, funky endgame. Alright, guys. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Blue Crow, for being our moderator while our other moderator is playing hooky. And we'll be back tomorrow, guys. Check out my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. And like and subscribe over there. Tomorrow, Weird Wednesday, unusual opening stream here on lichess. Bye-bye. 10 a.m. tomorrow. Bye-bye.